Hi everyone, I am Christy Fair and I am your instructor for the first half of LBS 803. Welcome to summer 2024. I'm really excited to get started with all of you. Every week I'm going to be posting videos, and in those videos I'm going to talk about the content of the course, what I'm seeing in assignments, discussion. It's useful information. I do recommend that you watch the videos every week. I will also post an outline to the video, some of the pertinent information for those of you who are unable or need an accommodation, unable to watch video or need accommodations. I do always endeavor to post these videos on Sundays or over the weekend prior to the Monday start of that week, but I will always have them posted by Monday morning. Sometimes life happens, right? If you need accommodations for the course in general, please send me an email or send me a message via Canvas, which is actually a little bit faster, and I'm happy to do that. There are a variety of accommodations that I can do for you. So in part one of this class, in the first 6 weeks, we're going to be talking about literature for grades kindergarten through 6th grade, which is a huge range of books, right? We're really going to be diving into contemporary works. I really want you to look at things from the year 2000 forward, contemporary to your students. If you have 5th graders this year or 6th graders this year, they're 11 or 12 years old, which means contemporary to them is anything after 2013. So we really do want to look at just this century. The first 6 weeks are organized by format. So week 1, we are going to be talking about picture books, which are larger trim sizes. They're usually 32 to 48 pages, and illustrations support the story. Then week 2, we're going to do early and transitional readers. They're smaller trim size, single words to short paragraphs, and they're designed with text and complexity in mind, meaning that they're written to support new or early readers. And then week 3, we're going to do comics and graphic novels. They are varying trim size and length. They cover all genres. They are illustration dependent visual storytelling. Week 4, we are going to cover the novel, and that is what we're looking at is prose and narrative poetry. So we are going to look at novels in verse as well during that week. They are varying trim sizes and lengths. They're text-dependent verbal storytelling. Sometimes they have art, but the text can exist without the art and still make sense. Week 5, informational text. So we are looking at the world of nonfiction. There are lots of different sizes and shapes, text and illustration depends on the topic. And traditionally we call this nonfiction. I'm going to try to always call it informational text since it really does support kind of how kids are looking at these works. And then week 6, we move into poetry. We're going to look specifically at books of poem and literature told in poem form, though, like I said, the bulk of novels in verse are going to be in week 4, the novel. I apologize for the noise. My cat is trying to break in, but she will jump on the desk while I record, and that is not what we want. Okay, so in part 1, we have 6 weeks, but there are 7 possible assignments. You only have to do 5 of them. You get a bye week. You get to take a week off. When you take a week off, you can also take the discussion off, although I would recommend that you still participate or look at it because otherwise you're going to miss some of that vital information for that particular format. If you are skipping that week, leave a comment in the assignment or send me a message so I know, and I will mark it as that you don't need to do it, exempt. And then we do have a midterm, and the midterm is required. You have to do it. I would say it's listed in week 1. I would say look at it early. It is a diversity equity audit, a small one compared to what you might do in a library, but it is going to take some time and thought, and so I want you to start looking at it early on. If you have access to a library, you can use that. If you don't, there's a sample set of books that you can use. A note about ChatGPT and other generative AI. Barb and I talked about this in our welcome video. You are welcome to use it for certain assignments. Please just let me know that you have and let me know why. It might be helpful for brainstorming, especially when it comes to like lesson plans. A lot of people are using it as a tool. I recommend that you do not use it for your annotations though, because it completely hallucinates what books are about. Also don't do it for bibliographies because it's going to make up books. It doesn't work for that type of assignment. Okay. Every week there is a discussion. This is your opportunity to share what you're learning with your classmates and to learn from them. I read everything. I generally don't comment in discussions except to share important information. Like, you're talking about a particular author and I know that they're coming to do a book signing in Massachusetts, or something like that. Or I have a resource that really is interesting to that. But I do read it all, and they are graded. But although they're graded on completion, not length. So you don't have to worry about writing huge long paragraphs. The other thing to know about our first half is I expect you to write annotations about your books each week. These are not just summaries. I don't want you to tell me just what happens in the story. These are evaluative annotations of the books you read. And what that means is I want you to think critically about the book. If it's a book with illustrations, talk about that. How do the illustrations help? How do they help? What do you glean from those? You really want to share what the creators have done successfully and why the book might be a good choice for your students. There is a how-to about annotations in the welcome module if you need support with that. I also will be giving you feedback every week, and just say, hey, this is really great, but I think that you might want to try to look a little bit more at the structure, or think about the language and the metaphors that are being used in this work, something like that. So week 1, picture books. Among my favorites. I was on the Caldecott committee in 2010. We read 800 picture books that year. I still love keeping track of what comes out every year, and it's one of my favorite things. So when we think about picture books, they are story and art working together to be a complete whole. A picture book does not work without pictures, except for the book with no pictures, but that is an outlier. What I want you to do is to read widely. The model texts that are in the list in the readings every week are examples. You can work from those if you don't know where to start, or you can go to a library or a bookstore and pick things off the shelf and find examples of successful picture books, especially if this isn't your general reading area. For the assignments, like I said, I want you to pick books published in this century, the year 2000 or later, what I want you to do is really pay attention to the artistic merits of the illustration, especially when it comes to the wordless picture books or the discussion about the Caldecott Award. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. This is not a full lecture on picture book art. There is a video about art styles or things to look for with regard to picture books, but this is kind of an overview. So one thing that I want you to look at is the use of white space, because even though we're talking about illustrations, white space actually is part of what we're looking at. So one example, really great example, is The Three Pigs, which won the Caldecott a number of years ago. And, it's the pigs are escaping from their story, and most of the pages have panels. But once they've fully escaped, Wiesner uses white space as part of the landscape to really show that the pigs are out and about. And so if you were talking about a book like this, you would definitely want to be talking about the white space as well. Medium, or what the artist used to make the art, is very important. Was it done digitally, which can be very difficult. That comes up a lot when people talk about Beagle, the Dan Santan's Caldecott winning book. So is it digital, watercolor, oil, graphite, so pencil or pencils? This one is Red Sings from Treetops, which was an honor book the year that I was on the committee. And Pamela Zagorensky uses watercolors and pastels, but then also a lot of collage. And so here it's a little hard to see. There we go. You can see she uses collage newspapers and a variety of other types of print. And then you can see the texture. So texture is a big part of this too, and you can think about that and pay attention to it. You also want to look at the color palette. Does the artist use the color palette to tell part of the story? Is it a character on its own? So I Want My Hat Back by John Klassen. It's a classic, fantastic. The color palette is very muted browns for most of the book. Going back, most of it is here like this, including the text kind of matches. And then when Bear remembers, I return the page, we have red. When he remembers, I've seen my hat. And that page turn is really dramatic for the reader. And it's the use of color palette that really makes the drama pop. I also want you to think about line, kind of like what is the overall like feel and line of the story? Are there lines used by the artist to direct your vision to certain areas? This is one of my favorite examples for talking about line. Penguin Story by Antoinette Portis. In most of the beginning, this is a book about Edna, the penguin. Most of it, the lines are very sharp and angular. See this? They go up and down. We follow the penguins all the way around. And then we get to this page turn, and we have this curved line of penguins that we follow the penguins as they come up, and that draws our line to something new and different. This one also is a great example of color palette because most of it is blues and blacks and white until we get to this bright orange. And then last is, characterization, facial expressions, very important. How do we know what the characters are feeling? Does the artist use a very like realistic style? And so style, realistic style, is it cartoonish? How are they showing what the characters feel like? So there's a lot to think about. If you have any questions or you need help with anything, I am here. I check Canvas daily. I check email mostly daily. Canvas is the best way to reach me. And I'm also happy to set up appointments so we can have office hours if you want to talk through something. So have fun, read a lot, and I can't wait to see what you have to say about everything.